Hello, everyone, and welcome. Um, we're gonna do some audio checks really fast, make sure everything sounds good. So if you guys want to let us know if you can hear us okay in the chat, that would be great. And we'll do introductions while we do the audio. So I am Whitney. I'm the lead programmer and designer, and I do some of the artwork as well. And I will hand it off to Lydia to introduce herself.
Yeah, hi, I'm Lydia. I am a research scientist by day, so I deal with a lot of the genetics of the game, designing them, testing them, and I also do artwork, but I can't code to save my life, so that's all on Whitney. Yeah, good to see everybody.
All right, so as long as the audio's good, if it's not, just let us know in the chat. But we're going to go ahead and move forward. So we're going to just get some housekeeping out of the way first. Very first thing I want to tell you guys is that the Patreon list on this screen that is live now is not the whole list, only because we did not want to put any people's real names, full names, in publicize them without permission. So if you are a Patreon member and do not have your Discord linked, or if we don't have an in-game name associated with your Patreon account at this point, you will not be included in this list. That's just to protect your privacy. Not because we want to leave you out. We would love to have everybody in the list, but we are just trying to be cognizant of people's privacy. We do recommend anybody who is a Patreon member and has not linked your Discord account. It's really easy to do. Patreon has instructions on how to do that. We highly recommend doing it. It will give you access to our Patreon exclusive text chat channel in Discord, where we post extra sneak peeks that don't necessarily make it to the Patreon itself. Just smaller updates or smaller little tidbits. We'll also ask questions, if I'm actively working on a feature or we're actively talking through a potential new feature. We may throw questions in that channel when we need a more immediate response than we would get through the actual Patreon. So we highly, highly recommend you link that. And the other housekeeping item, I do want to apologize in advance. I have a lingering cough from being sick. I am mostly over whatever illness I have had more or less for 6 or 7 weeks now. My COVID test was negative, but I'm of a suspicion that it was a false negative because of how long this has been lingering. I feel mostly okay. I'm just a little tired and have a lingering cough. So point being, you may be hearing me cough, especially the more I talk, the more likely it is that I'll be coughing. So that brings us to the last housekeeping item. And we're just going to, if you didn't read the blog post that we posted a couple days ago, we gave it to the Patreons a couple days ago and posted it to everyone else and on Facebook yesterday. We meant to do the Patreon release this weekend. However, with my being sick, I've had summers are really busy for me here. I live in Montana, and it's when the weather is nice. So on the weekends, I tend to be more busy with family visiting and doing activities, camping. Well, I haven't made it camping yet this year. It is on the agenda. We had there's a little festival a couple weekends ago. I had my niece visiting 2 weekends in a row and stayed with me, and so it's just been chaotic between me being sick and all of that. So the development has slowed down pretty significantly over the summer. Choosing a summer release date wasn't ideal, but it was just kind of how it landed based on the potential development timeline. We do want to point out, though, that the MVP of the game is pretty much done. We have a couple feature tweaks that have come up from testing and through the bug fixing process that we're like, you know what, this isn't really jiving with some of the other changes we've made. For instance, we're looking at slightly tweaking the job system to be more comprehensive and kind of fit in with the new approach that we're taking in a lot of the features in the game. And that still has to be completed. That tweak, I don't foresee that taking an excessive amount of time, but most of what's left though is bug fixing. And I'm actually going to, my mouse would wake up. I'm actually going to share a a table that we've got here, an Excel sheet or Google sheet. So this shows it's a lot of numbers, but I'm gonna go over it. So we have different sections. So as you can see, we broke up the testing. This is our testing master doc. I'm not going to show you any of the tests itself because we don't want to spoil some features, and it's really not relevant. The numbers here are what's important. We have how many tests for each section, and as you can see, we performed. We had over 1,600 tests that we needed to perform for the MVP, and this is just for the MVP. This does include like the forum, which will be coming during the Patreon access section. It doesn't include clubs, which will possibly come during Patreon access, but most likely will come sometime after we give public access. A lot of the groundwork for those features are laid out. However, there is I think for the forum, the back end is completely done from forum, but I still have to integrate it into the front end. So those essentially any feature that we decided wasn't fully necessary for the. Okay, 1 second. I'm gonna exit Steam. So I don't have those pop-ups. Anything that wasn't 100% necessary for the foundational game loop. But these tests, we had 1,643 total tests to perform. We got through 1,530 of them, or 93%. The reason that we only hit 93% is because some of the tests in the documentation here, the feature hasn't been fully completed, or there's tweaks that we want to make before we test them. It's something that we could test during the Patreon session. So we didn't feel it was necessary to try to get them done before the Patreon. We wanted to go ahead and focus on doing what we needed to do to give Patreon members access to start. So as you can see, of the 1,530 tests, 1,138 passed, 277 failed. So that was about a 75% pass rate, which actually pretty dang good. I'm pretty satisfied with that. A lot of, I would say a lot of the tests that hit demonic witch, we're excited to have you too. A lot of the tests that failed were within the training system, which actually are fairly easy fixes and actually somewhat fixed already. At least how the new training system works is it relies on a lot of lookup tables in the database. And we made some fundamental changes to the training system and just haven't moved everything that we needed to into the database. So there was a lot of database issues that Lydia, that's something that Lydia can actually work on and has been working on fixing those tables. And I just need to get them integrated into the actual database. So a lot of the bug fixes are actually already somewhat done. I do have, so we in total, we have 238 bugs to fix. I've already fixed about 39 of them, and that's only been over the last 4 days. I jumped into bug fixing this week. So that's about 21% of the about 22% of the bugs have already been fixed. A couple caveats on this. One caveat is we probably need to be fixing about 80-ish% of the bugs to get to the point of Patreon release. there are some bugs that it's not as necessary. They're not main systems, or they're not game breaking or feature breaking. So my goal is to get to 80-90%, at least. That being said, if we can hit 100% bug fix before the Patreon launch, that's our real goal. And this doesn't include, so yes, we're about 22% complete with bug fixing, but this does not include some of the feature changes that we've decided to make based on our testing and bug fixing. And then also, as you guys know, we constantly have new ideas for the game. We constantly have little things that pop up. I'm trying to think of one that we can share, and I'm just going to look at something on the side. So, for instance, we decided to... trying to see here. One that's been... essentially anything that has to do with genetics has to be complete before we can let anybody into the game. Give me 1 second. I'm just sorting a list here to see if I can. For instance, I don't have any. I think we've done all of them, so I don't see anything on my to-do list here. But we also have like the job rework that I mentioned that we will be putting out more information on soon. Possibly this weekend we'll do the Patreon post, and then in a week or two we'll push it out to everyone else. And little tweaks to just looking here. We have some artwork stuff that we need to finish. We have some, like, I need to get the terms of service and privacy policy back in the new version of the game. We have some rollover stuff that we have to tweak and fix. And the job changes and a couple other little things. So, all that being said, that's the down and dirty of what we have remaining to do for the most part. Some of it we're kind of keeping close to our vest because we want to surprise you with the new features, or we're still working out the details. Okay. So, we're going to put that aside, and we're just going to kind of show you around the game, around V2, and show off some of the new features that we have revealed or are okay revealing. One of the main things that I am really stupidly excited about, even though it's really, really minor, I've actually made it so when you log in, you automatically, your primary ranch is automatically selected for you. So you still log into this page, and if I want to go to the ranch, I could select whichever ranch, but this Serenity River Ranch is my primary ranch. So if I wanted to, literally all I've done at this point is log in. But if I wanted to, I could go to my ranch. That was just a logical fix to a user interface design struggle that I feel like the game had. If you want to go to a different ranch, if I go back to home, I can easily do that. So I could go to the Serenity River Morgans, or I can go back to Serenity River Ranch. The other thing it does when you log out, it clears what ranch you have selected. Just little quality of life things that are more behind the scenes. But yeah, so we can get into some of the stuff. So we've talked about property management before. This is what it looks like in game. So you have your acreage. This ranch, for testing purposes, has an excessive amount of acreage, but you'll start with, I'm trying to think what you start, trying to remember off the top of my head what you start with.
Was it 2 acres?
22?
Yeah.
Yes. Okay. You start with 22 acres. You start with 1 20-acre pasture that'll house 20 horses. And you start with 1 10-stall barn, which how it works is every every acreage of pasture. So every pasture has a certain number of occupancy. You can see that down here. So the max occupancy here is how many horses can be in these barns or pastures. So this pasture here, pasture 1, is a 100-acre pasture. You can see it's overrun with horses. It's 458 horses. That's because hey, Kenyon, I've been testing, and I've left studs in with mares because I'm not really worried about it right now because I'm not active with playing, and they have multiplied. Oh boy, have they multiplied. So it is way over capacity. But ideally, the max occupancy of this pasture would be 100. How it works is for every horse in capacity in pasture, you need 1 acre of land. That's pretty common, realistic. They say 1 to 2 acres per horse in real life. So that's how we've sorted that out in game for pastures. For barns, what we've done is you need 2 acres per 10 stalls. Excuse me, I was going to sneeze. And the logic behind that is, even though the barn itself isn't going to take up a full, a 10-stall barn is not going to take up an acre, but you also would need turnout space, realistically. So the turnout space isn't quite as much as you would want in real life for pasture if you're gonna turn out a horse on actual grazable land. But we account for that in the feed system, the new feed system, which we'll get into. Essentially, in game, if a horse is stalled, the idea is that they're not getting any grazing whatsoever. So think of the turnout as more of a dry lot. It might have grass, it might not, but it would be enough to sustain 10. I would say that you're probably going to have like 1.5 acres to 1.75 acres of turnout for a 10-stall barn. That is, if you have 10 horses, it's going to turn into a dry lot in real life. That's what would happen. So that's kind of what we're mimicking. It's pretty easy to add new locations. You obviously need to have the acreage. So I have 940 acres available here. This acreage up here lets you know I can sell acreage by I'll sell 40 acres here and hit the sell button. And this is another feature of V2 is these pop-up, these little toasts at the bottom. Whenever you perform an action on the game, whenever you click a button, you should get either a green or red toast at the bottom right-hand corner of the game that will tell you if the action was successful or if it failed and for what reason it failed. So, for instance, if I were trying to sell 1,000 acres here, it's going to be a red pop-up and it's going to tell me exactly why I can't. Not enough acres to sell. So that's a really cool quality of life feature in V2 that I personally am very thankful for, because I think it will help players know if they're experiencing a bug or an issue, or if they do experience a bug and they get like an error message that they should not be getting. It will give players more detail to give to us to figure out the cause of that bug. So I'm really excited about that. So now we have 900 acres, so I can definitely do another pasture here. So we're going to go ahead and call this pasture 2. And you'll notice it starts at 10. So the minimum pasture size is 10. And you can put any size pasture up to 100, between 10 and 100. So I can say I want 30 horse pasture, and I can purchase it. And it'll take just a second. I get the pop-up that says it purchased it successfully, and it shows up in my locations tab here, or section. Sorry. I want to go over this section here. As you can see, it gives you a lot more details about what's going on in your pasture or barns. So it'll tell you your current occupancy. It'll tell you how many of those horses are lease horses, how many are stalls or occupancy that is reserved for horses that are pending sale, pending purchase. So you have a pending sale, an auction horse that you've bid on and you're currently the active highest bidder, or a private sale that is pending for you to accept or deny, or a public sale that you have requested, because we now have public sales that will, do we have that in V1? Require approval sales?
Yeah, I think so.
So yeah, we have the public sales that require approval. All of that is accounted for in this call. And then you also have the total number of unborn foals that are pending in that pasture or barn. It adds all those up to get your total occupancy. Oh, that doesn't look like the right number. Okay, so that's a bug. And then it'll tell you your max occupancy. Obviously, as you can see, especially in pastures, you can go over the max occupancy, but there are consequences. And those consequences are horses fighting and getting injured. An important thing to note, in V2, we have changed pasture breeding somewhat. Pasture breeding is still a thing, but there's two major changes that we've made. One, if you have more than one stud in a pasture with mares and any of the mares get pregnant, the sire will be unknown. You will have to, when that foal is born, if you want to know who the sire is, you'll have to do a paternity test. If there's only one sire in the pasture, it'll automatically know, okay, that's obviously the sire. There's only one stud. The other thing is, if a pasture has more than one stud in it, or if a pasture is overcrowded, whether they're studs or not, there is a higher risk, a significantly higher risk that the horses will be injured. Injured horses, no matter the injury, which we know is not exactly realistic, it was just for simplicity's sake, but injured horses will not pasture breed. They're not capable of pasture breeding. And we decided to make that change because in V1, there were scenarios where players were not necessarily intentionally taking advantage, but inadvertently or not, taking advantage of overpopulating pastures and allowing their populations to kind of explode via pasture breeding. And we wanted a way to kind of mitigate that because for multiple reasons. One, it's not super realistic that you could keep 458 horses in a 100-acre pasture. They would eat the grass to death. You wouldn't technically get the benefits that you would normally get from pasturing a horse. There would be more injuries. There would be more fighting. There would be consequences. And so we wanted to mimic that in game. Another thing to note about pasture breeding is the fact that we have implemented a what would I call it? Inactivity timer, I guess, on players' ranches. And how that works is if a player has not logged in at least 7 days, certain things will get paused. Pasture breeding will be paused. Condition change will be paused. I can't remember if finances are paused, but there are certain things that are paused if you haven't logged in within 7 days. And that's just to help players. Horses will still age. They will still potentially get pasture injury, like normal pasture injuries, not overcrowding or stud pasture injuries. Certain finances will happen. We wanted to make it so that if I, let's say, for some reason can't log in for a week and I forgot that I had a mare on a job or showing and pregnant and I didn't have a chance to take her off the show or job before I essentially went MIA for a week. When I come back, I don't want to come back to a dead mare because she, died from emaciation. So we just kind of put a pause on that, just to give players a chance to recover from having to be offline for an extended period of time for whatever reason. So that's another thing to go over. Loans are the same as V1. I'm not going to go over those, but that's pretty much pasture management. The only other thing I'm going to point out is you will no longer, haven't updated this in the code yet in this version, but we did decide that selling a location, which just means, and I think I'm going to change the verbiage here, but getting rid of, so if I get rid of this pasture that I just created because it's empty, I'm not going to get any money back. And the reason we decided to do that is because honestly, if I were getting rid of pasture in the new system, that would be the equivalent of tearing down the fences. You're not, I guess you could get a little bit back if you sold like the fence posts or whatever. Same with a barn. If I were going to sell a barn, I know in real life you can technically like move buildings sometimes, but that's really expensive and you likely wouldn't get as much return on your sale. But what will get you money back is selling the acreage. So if I decide that I need to get rid of a barn, I need the extra money, I would get rid of the barn. It doesn't cost anything to get rid of the barn, which if you were to tear down a barn, it would actually cost something. So we're not 100% realistic on this, but we're balancing it out for gameplay sakes. But then I could go and sell the two acres that barn took up for a, I can't remember how much you get back per acre, but yeah. Okay, so that is that. Finances is pretty much the same. Same setup as V2. Sales and leases. So we've got a few changes to sales and leases. Private sales are pretty much the same, but we have incoming sales requests and outgoing sales requests. Incoming sales requests are people requesting to purchase my horses that I marked as requiring approval. Outgoing sales requests are sales that I have requested to purchase and I'm waiting for approval. So it'll have the status as pending here. I can include completed requests, and you can see this one was approved. I can also, that cancel button needs to not be there on ones that are already approved. So let me make note of that and pop it over to me in some manner. But I can also cancel a pending request. So if I put in a request to purchase a horse and then change my mind before the owner has either approved or denied it, I can actually cancel the request. We have incoming lease requests. So leases are slightly changed in V2 in the sense that you can now advertise a lease. So I'm actually going to go to one of my horses pages here. This pretty horse. And we can actually set up a lease as an advertisement. So when I do this, I put the price per month, I click advertise, and then I have a description. I can type in a description up to 500 words of what kind of lease it is, information about the horse, whatever. And then I have different options here. One of the things we changed with leases was to allow limiting what a leasee can do with that horse. And you can set that up when you're advertising it. So I can say, this is a job only lease, or I'm leasing this horse for training only, or they can train and show, or it's a breeding lease. If it is a breeding lease, I can mark whether or not the leasee is the foal. Excuse me. Or if I don't mark that, if the foal is not weaned before the end of the lease, it will, I think it'll just return to me no matter what. I need to double check the code on that and how we laid that out. You'll have to forgive us. There's so many new details and so many little changes that we made from V1 to V2. I'm not going to remember every single detail perfectly off the top of my head at the moment, but bear with me. We've put out blog posts and stuff with the correct details, and we will continue to put out blog posts with the correct details as we have time. Obviously, we haven't been doing a lot of blogging or Facebook posts for the last month. That's because we've been so focused on testing, and in what little time that we have to dedicate to the game, we've been focused on testing, and we've been focused on bug fixing. But yes, this is new. If you don't choose advertise, you can choose the length of the lease. So I can choose a year. I'll find the recipient. and then I will say what is allowed. If I don't choose anything, it's actually going to toast an error message. It must allow at least one activity. So you'll pick which activity it allows. Go from there. Um, great new approach to leasing. We really wanted to give leasers more control over what VCs could do with their horses. So we're gonna go back to the ranch. And if you guys, I just want to throw this out here, and I think I forgot to mention it at the beginning. Any questions, whether it's about what we're talking about or about something completely different, just throw it in the chat. We'll interrupt. This is just kind of loosey-goosey today. We're just trying to show off different features, show off the fact that how far along the game is. We're just kind of winging it. And so if there's something specific that you'd like to see, or if you have a question about any specific feature or upcoming, change, anything like that, throw it in the chat. We will pivot to it as they come in. So, yeah, I just wanted to, again, talk about leases. So one thing that we didn't have in V1, there's so many good quality of life changes in V2, coming in V2. Obviously, playing the game for a little over a year ourselves really gave us a lot of insight into what quality of life changes needed to happen, how we wanted to maybe change features, how we wanted to make things more engaging, etc. So I don't even think we're going to have time to go over all of the quality of life changes that are coming. I just have to say, I'm way, way more proud of the design, coding, the feature changes of V2 than V1. Obviously, I have a lot more experience going into starting coding V2. When I started V1, I only had about 6 months to a year of coding experience. No, I would say I had like 2 years because I started at the end of school. All of that was school, but I'm talking about like semi-professional experience. I probably had about 6 months. And I was new to the language that I chose and the framework that I chose for V2. So it was a huge learning experience for me, and a bit of a learning curve. Obviously, I developed that V1 for 2, maybe 3 years, Lydia, before starting on V2. There was like 2.5 to 3 years of development on V1. Lot of lessons learned, both in the development process, development itself, a lot of skills learned. I also, not only was I coding in this framework, these frameworks in the game, but also professionally. I got my first full-time software development job in that time. I was working in this, both very inundated in the game and at work professionally. So I learned a lot, and I don't regret the experience. I don't regret going into V1 with as little of experience as I had, because I don't think I would have learned as much had I not done that. All that being said, obviously I came into V2 with closer to 5 years of development experience, and that's why what took probably 1.5 to 2 years to accomplish in V1 has only taken me about 6 months to accomplish in V2. Not only that, I feel like my coding approach is much stronger, is much more able to weather changes in the future. And I also think we learned, both Lydia and I learned a lot, both from your everyone's feedback, as well as our own experience playing the game. So I'm super excited about V2. I'm super excited for you guys to get in and experience all of the new features, as well as the quality of life changes. Anyways, long ramble, just to say, to go into some of the lease changes. So you have incoming lease requests are requests from other players to lease your horse. So if you advertise a lease, they can request that they be considered for that lease. One thing to be aware of is, unfortunately, there was no easy way to design it so that multiple players could request a lease at the same time on the same horse, simply because if you approved both leases at the same time, when does each player get the lease? So we just couldn't quite figure out a good quality way of handling that. So how lease requests work is different than how sales requests work. Sales requests, you can have 4 or 5 people request on the same horse sale at the same time. And as soon as you approve one of them, all the other requests are obviously denied. That's pretty straightforward. With leases, it's a little bit more complex. So once somebody requests a lease, you have to go in and either approve or deny it. If it's approved, then the pending lease goes back to that player for them to approve the start of the lease. If it is denied, then it goes back up to be advertised. Pending leases are leases that are pending your acceptance. So that's if I set up a lease for one of my horses to go to Lydia directly, or if I approved an incoming lease request, it then becomes a pending lease for that requester to approve the start of. And then we have this active leases, which I don't think I had anything like this in V1. It has the name of the horse, the owner ranch, how much you're paying per month for the lease, the length of the lease, how many months are remaining, and what is allowed. Oh, I see a bug here. This should be under not full stays. Whether or not the full stays with you if it's a breeding lease. And then you can always end the lease early. And then, and to clarify, this active leases, so if you look, this is outgoing leases section. So this active leases are leases of your horses. So I think this needs to be, instead of owner ranch, this needs to be leasee ranch. So like I said, there's a lot of little bugs and stuff that we're still fixing and finding. But essentially, that's what that section is. And then you have your outgoing lease request. This is where you would say, you would see any leases that, like advertised leases that you've requested to lease the horse. And yeah. So I made this backwards. This should be the owner ranch. This should be leasee. So I got a little bit of fixing too. And then you have your leased horses, which is any horses. I have these backwards. This section needs to go down here. Okay, well, anyways, that's all that detail. We also have auction bids. This is something that we didn't have in the one where you can see a list of all your current bids. So any bids that are currently the highest bid on that auction that you have placed. And then you can also see all of your bids. So if you were outbid by somebody, you'll see your past bids and what the current bid is on that auction. So you can look here and say, okay, I was outbid by $500. Do I want to go back? And the horse here will be a link. The owner will be a link. All of this will be a link, just like up here. This is a new tab that I'm really excited about. So one decision we made in V2 was to move show results out of the notifications. So in V1, it was kind of overwhelming. The only notifications you got for show results were if a horse placed in the money, so first to fifth place. But it was just overwhelming. Every time that I would log in V1, I would just be inundated and I would potentially miss more important messages. So we decided to move it to its own tab. Like it's just a table, and it'll actually show, although I see that we have a little bit of bug here, it'll show the horse, what show. These are links that you can select to go to the horse itself for the show. It'll say the date it ran, what their score was, what their placement, and how much the payout they earned on that show. It's also filterable, so you can filter and see only horses that took first place. You can filter by the date of the show and the name of the horse. So if you have a specific horse that you want to see, you can also go to the horse's page itself, but this allows you to filter it here if you want an overview. We have the notes thing. We did change, just a quick note, we did change the WYSIWYG editor, or the, I guess, what would you call it? The advanced formatting editor. Yes, we agree, Damar, which definitely a nice change. So we excuse me. anywhere that there is, so like in the forums, force notes, these notes, messages to other players, um, the editor that we were using was free, and then they changed it to not be free, or like I only was getting some of the features in V1, and then I realized that. And anyways, the editor that we used in V1 is just not gonna work for me too. It was gonna be like, and it was a good editor, but it was gonna cost us like $2,000 to use the full version or the non-free version or the new paid version, like that was free. I can't remember exactly what happened, but anyways, it's not free anymore. It was gonna cost us I wouldn't say excessive, like it's just an amount that we couldn't justify for what our income is at this point. So I found a different editor, which actually I've ended up liking this editor more. And the main feature I want to show that we really struggled with the old editor was the images. So there's two ways to insert an image. You just say it's an image on another website. You can just link directly to that image. So for instance, if you were to Google something like course and go to images, and this is a cute, potentially AI image. And then you would open image, new tab. This is the link that you would want. So the direct link to the image. I can actually just plug that in here. It's going to automatically pull in the width and height that the image currently is, but you can enlarge it if you want. So you do that, and if I hit save, there it goes. There's the image linked in there. If I want to upload an image, please. I'm just going to find an image really fast. That's time up. Give me 1 second. I'm just cleaning some stuff up. Okay, so if I want to upload an image, I can go to this upload section and I can browse for an image. We're going to go here and open. And it takes a second. What it's doing, and you're going to see it comes back with the source link. What it's doing is it's actually uploading it to our media server, and then it turns it into a link. So, and then it'll put in the native height and width, and you can hit save, and then it inserts it. And you can see the image has been inserted here. I make this a little bit bigger. I can do this. I can resize the image in the editor itself, although I wouldn't recommend using images that are this big. But as you see, yeah, there I can resize it. And it also allows you to put links in. It has, I don't think the other editor had tables. This one has tables, so I can put a table in here, horizontal line. It's just, one, it was free to use for art purposes, and two, I think it just has better features and more advanced features. And I can save that. And it did something weird. Okay, so clearly I need to do some tweaking with this. This is not a bug that I'm really worried about until we're in the Patreon thing. But yeah, clearly I need to do some evaluating there. Profiles will not be a part of the Patreon launch, so you won't be able to customize your banner or any of this information. You might be able to customize bio, though. No, I don't have that done. It just wasn't seen as an absolute necessary feature to have in the Patreon launch, or other things we wanted to prioritize. So anything from the profile to the right is all going to be publicly visible. So if I were to go to, say, Ranch, how many is yours? 4?
Yeah.
If I were to go to Lydia's Ranch, it's going to look a little bit different. Oh, hers has my banner because when we were testing before we migrated all the the ranches, the V1 data over, my ranch was ranch 4 in the test. All of this will be cleared out so people don't have random other people's banners and stuff. But as you can see, so I can see the notes. I can only see public notes. This shouldn't be there. I think I have that marked as a bug that I just haven't fixed yet. So I can see all of Lydia's horses here and click into any of them. I can see which horses she has bred. She doesn't have any right now. Let's go back to my ranch. I do have stuff in there. I just wanted to show you that that's what you can see. But as you see, so here are all my horses that I've bred. And public sales, which are actually filterable. So if somebody has a lot of sales, you can actually filter by breed, gender, age, price, whether or not it requires approval. I've got public studs, which, okay, well, that needs some fixing. And public semen sales. So I don't think we had that in V1. I don't think we had anything except for the horses. I don't think we had horses bred, public sales, public studs, or public semen on the ranches page. But this is really nice. So if somebody posts in Discord, here's my ranch, go, I have all these horses for sale. You can just go to their ranch and look at their ranch's specific sales. So that's the ranch page. My horses is just the same as always. There is a bug right now that I still need to fix. Like if I go to pasture, it still has all of my horses. So I got to figure that out. But yeah, you can see same as everything. Let's go to this guy. So we have some changes on here. One of the main things is you'll see knee action, hawk action, and stride are now visible on this tab instead of the confirmation tab. They're not technically confirmation traits, which is why we moved on to here. And it just made more sense to put them here. Everything else is pretty much the same. We just moved things around a little bit. We've got the condition change, but we want to get into some of the management stuff here. So one thing that we're really excited about and we think everybody will really like is the new registration system. So now when you're registering a horse, you can choose to add the prefix, but instead of choosing a color, you're going to plug in the genetic information sort of the horse. So you'll determine the base color. Leave it up to you to know how to determine the base color based on genetics. But so if I go to the horse's genetics health tab and I can do the test. Okay. So from the test, I can determine that I already know that this is a seal brown just from looking at him, but he's a seal brown buckskin. So he has one copy of cream and genetically bay seal brown. We don't have a test for seal brown, so you have to kind of determine that somewhat based off looks. And then for patterns, he carries row. So if I go back to the profile page, I'm going to name him Pretty Boy because he is pretty. I'm going to add the prefix. I know he's a seal brown base color, and then I know he has one copy of cream. So I'm going to choose this cream here. If I were to choose double cream or pearl, you can see it won't let me select any other cream, but I can select any combination of any of the other ones. So he does it. So modifiers are mostly visual. So I can look at him and I don't see any of these modifiers. He is not all white or near white. You will notice if I choose white or near white, you cannot choose any other pattern. And if I choose white, I can't choose near white and vice versa. But if I unselect those, I can choose the patterns. He is a roan. I can choose any combination of pattern that I want. And then if he's leopard, there are two leopard options here. Whether or not they're varnished is obviously only a leopard trait. Otherwise, it would be considered brown. And then what kind of leopard? So I'm going to choose none, which should be showing there, but it's not. But I could choose snowflake, which obviously these are something you're going to see visually. So I might see that he's leopard genetically, but there's obviously many leopard options. So I would choose full leopard, near leopard, blanket, etc. But he's none. And then I'm going to go ahead and click register. Again, I'm going to get my success message here. And if I look up here, it's going to automatically determine he is a brown buckskin. And we didn't get Roan out. Okay, so there's a bug there. We haven't been able to, there's so many combinations here that we still have some testing to do, and probably relying on players to let us know of issues with the registration. But essentially all this does is it says, okay, you've plugged in these values. I'm going to go and look up in a lookup table what this combination of whatever values you put in here is determined to be. And it will, excuse me, sorry, trying to prevent myself from coughing. It will determine that this is then a brown buckskin, and that it is, should say Roan here. But yeah, we'll look into why it didn't. If we do another one, we're going to pretend, I just want to show you an example of, I can choose, obviously this is chestnut. I'm going to choose chestnut. I'm not going to worry about any dilutions or modifiers. I'm going to say that this is a white horse and register. Oh, it thinks I'm still on the other horse. Just going to refresh. Okay. Here we go. And we're back to chestnut. I'm going to say it's a white horse and click register. And it knows that if we go up here, white is considered the registered color. Because if it were an all white horse, technically it's a white horse and no pap. Alternatively, if I were to choose, I'm just going to refresh this. It's going to, I need to look in why that's not updating to the correct horse. If I were to choose near white, and let's just say he's champagne, and hit register, and look at the change, you can see he's amber champagne with a near white pattern, because obviously near white still shows the base color, so, or whatever color there. So that's a really exciting change to the registration. We think that'll help people both learn more about horse color names and genetics, and just be easier for people who don't really care to learn. There is still a little bit of legwork to it. Obviously, base color you'll have to figure out somewhat on your own. But the rest of this, you just look at the genetics. Or some of these, obviously, you don't get the genetics of it, but you can look visually at horse. So that's that. I'm going to go into the feed system. So we have the feed system it's completely different. It's, well, I mean, it is and it isn't. So how the feed system works now is you have two options. You can either choose a preset, or you can customize it yourself. So you can feed a horse up to 35 pounds of feed and no less than 10 pounds of feed. So if I were to try to feed this horse nothing, it's going to throw an error. And then if I were to try to feed it 60 pounds, it's going to throw an error. We still have presets. So when you and as you can see, there's more presets. Because, Lydia, are you okay if I go over some of the job changes? Because we're kind of gonna have to explain a little bit of this.
So that's fine. We've already let Patreon know, and it's also, I don't know, people probably haven't noticed, but I have updated the wiki, so technically it's already live for people to see.
Okay. Perfect. Okay, so to explain the feed system, or why there's so many more options in the feed system, we need to explain some changes to energy usage or condition change. How it originally worked. Okay, well, it's all kind of okay. Try to think of how to put this. So this actually, some of these changes stemmed from um, economy balancing. So we realized that, and from the show changes, so it's kind of a domino effect. As you guys know, we changed the show system. So let's pause on this and we'll go into events here. We changed the show system. So as you see here, there are now 8 levels in the show system. So we have, these are not in order. I gotta fix that. So we have novice, junior, and then I think it goes regional, reserve, national, grand world, master, and then grandmaster. Yeah, I need to fix this so they're in the right order. I can actually, let me pull up a document. Okay, so it goes novice, junior, regional, reserve, grand, national, world, and master. And what we decided, where did we document this? Because I'm definitely stuff it up. Edition V2, maybe? Okay. Yes. Okay. I've got it.
Yeah.
So shows will still require 1 energy point. So I guess we should review how condition kind of works. Condition is, you go back to a horse. So you'll see here, we have this condition impact here. We also have our condition change up here. So how it works is condition change is a decimal number between, it could be negative. I think it could go, define, if you put them in like 15 shows, they're gonna have negative 15. So the loss can be pretty high. The max they can gain, I believe, is 2.
Like 2 or 2.5, I think.
Yeah, 2 or 2.5. So there's a lot of factors that go into condition, but and it is a little bit more complex, and we know it was a little bit confusing in B1. We're hoping that in a way, even though it's more complex, it might actually be easier, and we're providing additional tools in the wiki. So Lydia actually made, do you have a link to that spreadsheet that you made that show that you can plug in like what your horse is doing?
I can recover it. Yeah, give me a second.
Okay, well, she's looking that up. So horses in V2 have a base loss of 0.5 condition per rollover. So no matter what, just living is going to expend energy. Jobs, where in V1 they were the same condition loss as showing and training, are now 0.5 condition per rollover loss. Showing is still 1 condition per rollover loss. Training used to be 1 condition loss per rollover, is now 0.5 condition loss per rollover. Pregnancy is still 2 loss, and nursing is 1 loss. Again, we'll have this all worked. It's all laid out in
It's in the wiki. Correct.
in the wiki.
I've already updated it.
Okay, yeah, I can pull up the wiki then.
And I did just drop you a link for that, the helper.
Awesome. Okay, so we have the speed helper that is, I believe, linked in the wiki. It will be accessible. I'll make a copy for myself. Okay, so what you can do, another thing to note is in V2, horses on pasture have a 0.25 gain. And I think everything else is speed-based gain. So in this, you can actually say, okay, this horse is in a barn, so their loss is negative 0.5 because they don't have any gain from the pasture. They don't have a slow feeder. They are not pregnant. One thing to note is with pregnancy, first trimester doesn't have any impact on the condition, but second and third does. If they're nursing a foal, also twins, each foal that they're nursing, because we do have twins in V2, so each foal that they're nursing has a -1 impact. We're going to say no. If they're trained, they have 0.5s. If they're in a job, they have 0.5. And then obviously per show, it's -1. So the reason we had to go with so many feed options is because this change up to training and jobs to be less. And the reason we changed training and jobs to be less is because the show system is in a way a little bit harder we made it a little bit harder to make money in the show system, sort of. I'm going to say sort of, at the lower levels. Also, we have set up the show system so that, first of all, one thing to note of the show system is that if a horse earns their first level title, so I think I said novice, once they earn the novice title, they cannot compete in novice feed. Any level after that, it doesn't matter what title they have, they can still compete in the lower levels. Novice is the only level that has a cutoff. Secondly, the payouts for the lower level shows aren't going to be as sustainable. If you have a horse that is only performing at the lower levels, it might actually be better to put them in a job or something like that. On the flip side, we increased the payout for jobs somewhat to kind of balance this. We also reduced the condition loss for training and jobs so that you could have a horse that's in training also have a job and still show once a rollover. Because what we're trying to do with the new show system is really encourage players to show their horses while training at younger ages. And one of the things we did to the show system is overtraining will not help your horse at lower levels. Over conditioning will not help your horse as much at lower levels either. We put caps, mostly on the training. I can't remember how much we did on the performance traits, but definitely we put caps on the training. So the training requirements, let's see if I can, did you put the training requirements for showing in the wiki?
I have not updated the show information yet.
So let me find that document. Okay, so training requirements, I should be able to show this section of this document. So the training requirements for each level has changed. So novice horses only excuse me. Novice level horses only need to be trained up to 15% completion of each task for that discipline. Juniors are up to 25%. Regional is up to 50%. Reserve is up to 75%. Grand, National, World, Grandmaster, Veterans, and Specialty are all 100%. Futurity horses only need to be trained up to 15%. And Breeders' Cup only to 50%. And we wanted to make it so players who overtrain their horses and then put them in novice didn't actually have an edge on the horses that were trained up to 15%. We did this because we really want to encourage players to show their horses at appropriately young ages. The reason being, so kind of how it works in real life for the most part, and also because of the way the new show system is set up, it's if you don't show that way, your horse could potentially run out of time to reach some of the higher levels. Yeah, I can show that. Sorry. So this is a little bit misleading, but just pay attention to this points required. So novice level requires 15 points and at least one first. I know this says first required here. Just ignore this. This is actually how many firsts it would take to earn that many points. So please ignore that. Really, each of these just have to have one first place at the level to earn the title. So 15 points, and these points are cumulative. So it's 15 points at this level. So really, it's only 30 points at this level to get this, but 45 points total, 90 total at regional, 150 reserve, 225. So you can see the points get pretty high up here. But we also changed. I got to make sure that we don't spill information that we don't necessarily want. Yeah, we can do this. So we changed the points earned as well. So the points earned are flat across all levels now. And it's just much simpler. First place always earns 3 points, no matter what level. Second, 2, third, 1. So there's more opportunity to earn points at greater amounts, I guess, is what I'm trying to say. Okay, so we're all over the place. It's because the condition, jobs, showing a lot of the changes we made are so interconnected in these systems. Well, let's loop back to the feed. So one of the changes that we made is you can see this condition impact. So you can see exactly how much the feed is going to impact the force. This does not take into account any drain. So this is just the feed impact. So what you would have to do is so this is 0.75 because this horse is in a pasture and on 20 pounds of grass hay. Maybe it does take into account. I don't think it does, but let me check something. Again, apologies, guys. There is so much that we've changed that I have to double check something. No, that's correct. Okay, that's what I thought. So they get 0.25 condition change per 10 pounds of grass hay, 0.5 condition change per 10 pounds of alfalfa hay, and 0.2 condition change per 1 pound of grain. So if I change this, let's just change this to the highest. Well, we can even do, that's the spell. Concentrated. You can see it's going to have a plus 0.275 change. So if I actually apply that, you should refresh, and you'll see the condition change bar here also now shows that this horse will gain a 0.2 condition per, this might be off a little bit because it should be 0.25. 2.25, sorry. But this is what they will gain every rollover. If I were to say put them on a job, I don't need to do that. I just don't like. You can see it dropped some. So let's put them on a job and let's change the feedback to 20 pounds of grass, and you can see they're now losing some condition. So we've put tools in here to help you guys manage this and help you know exactly what's going on with your horse. This condition change bar is going to be a godsend for you guys. I don't think the one in V2 was as comprehensive or accurate as it needed to be. This one, as you can see, it even updates in real time when I make changes. So anytime I make change to a feed, anytime I enter the horse into a show, so I'm gonna enter this into a division show. I need a novice level. Enter them there. Should get a success message. And then I go back up here. That one might not have updated. Let's refresh the page. So that's a bug. It's because it's not the same day. So the day that show runs, it will reflect that. But I can't enter a horse to show the same data to run, so I'm not going to be able to demonstrate that. So that's a really messy overview of the new feed system. But we promised the wiki is pretty comprehensive, and it also gives you access to this feed helper, which pretty much does all the math for you. You just have to plug in the information. It'll tell you how much condition per rollover, and it'll tell you which preset feed option to use, or if you want to, you can work it out yourself. And so this, if I were doing it for this horse, I'd lose 2.5. So, and this updates as I change the slider values, you'll see. So yeah, I'm not getting into exactly at 2.5 here, but before you even change it, you can see what the condition impact will be based off of the slider. Okay, so let's go to I need to go to a different horse to go over a horse in a barn to be able to show you all of this. So this guy. So a neat little visual feature is in the location tab, if I put this horse in a pasture, it will update this image to a pasture. So yeah, you can really easily add a glance, say, oh, this stud is in a pasture, or I can put him back in a barn. The barn doesn't. Boom. I gotta give it a second. Big barn. Are you gonna do it? Barn is full. Okay, well, give me a second. I need to go back to the ranch. And the nice thing is, oh yeah, total occupancy 65. Oh, but test 3 is not full. Okay, so we can do that. So turn that key. Hey, Terrace, welcome. And we'll move him to test 3. And you can see the image should change. I'll get my toast that says, yes, that happened. It also mentions that it moves that horse and any sucklings to the new location. Okay, so hygiene care. You'll see here that we have 4 bars. It is missing one value that I just haven't fixed. Holy gosh, Terrace, you are a rock star getting up at 4 a.m. to join us. So we have coat condition, stall dirtiness, hoof length. And then there will also be what are we calling it, Lydia? Is it hoof condition?
Hoof condition or hoof quality, I forget, honestly.
Yeah, something like that. So coat condition is pretty straightforward. How well taken care of their coat is, I guess, or the quality of their coat. And you can reset that just by grooming them. And you see it'll reset to 100. Stall dirtiness. This stall is clean because there's actually a bug where the stalls aren't getting dirty at all right now in rollovers, so I gotta fix that. Hoof dirtiness, so this is completely dirty, so I want to click the hoof pick, and that will reset that. And then hoof length, way overgrown. Hoof length's a little, I don't know if I want to say tricky, but a little more involved in understanding. A hoof, anything 20, like at 20% length or under, is considered okay. There's no negative repercussions for a hoof growing up to 20% length. Anything higher than that does have some negative repercussions. So we want to go ahead and either trim and shoe this horse. I'm just going to trim just to show you guys the clippers. I guess this is what they would be called. If I click that, the farrier will come and trim the horse's hoof. So we've got hoof prints here. The green hoof prints that are the full hoof print means this horse is currently barefoot. But if I click the horseshoes, it changes to more the orange ones that look more like horseshoes. To remove the shoes, I then have to call the farrier to click the trim button. And even though he has no hoof length, he will remove the shoes. If the hoof length was above 20 and you wanted to keep the shoes on, you would just click the shoe. Let's go back to co-condition really fast. So what does co-condition impact? Co-condition will impact the show score. Of course, and it's not a straightforward, it's not just like, if they're anything under 100%, it impacts it negatively. It is, let me pull up the document, so I'm giving you guys the right data. So I'll have a good range. The ideal range for a non-showing horse would be 70 to 80, or 70 to 100, sorry. And if they drop below 70, each rollover, there's a chance for them to develop a skin condition. The lower the condition of the coat, the higher the chance of the skin condition developing. Just a note, that's actually not coded in yet and probably won't be coded in by the time the Patreon starts, but it is coming. Co-condition is lost at a rate of 15% per rollover if in a pasture, and 10% per rollover if in a barn. However, just a little complicated because barn loss is multiplied by how dirty a horse's stall is. So a horse's stall that is 50% dirty or higher is going to lose more co-condition, up to 15, between 10 and 15. So grooming a horse will automatically jump the value of the co-condition to 100. A groomer can be hired automatically, so you can select this groom here, and that will hire a groomer. One thing to note that I don't have fully implemented on the front end yet that I need to fix is there's 2 ways you can hire a groomer. You can hire a groomer to do show-ready grooming, which will keep the co-condition at 100, which means they'll groom them every day or every rollover. Or you can do non-show-ready grooming or partial groom, which means they'll only groom the horse if it drops below 70, which means every 3rd rollover, just to save you a little money. So then stall dirtiness is pretty straightforward. It gains 25% each rollover that it is not cleaned. And the stall dirtiness will affect co-condition gain in a barn. Obviously, stall dirtiness is only relevant if the horse is in a barn. It will also impact the hoof condition, and I'll get to that in a minute. Hoof dirtiness impacts, they gain, horses in a pasture will gain 15% hoof dirtiness per day, and in a stall will gain 10 per day, variable by the 10 to 15 per day, depending on the stall dirtiness. Same concept as the co-condition. Hoof dirtiness will impact injury chances while training or showing. I think this is a little bit outdated, so I'm not going to say exactly the specifics on that, but essentially the idea behind that is the dirtier the hoof is, the more like dirt and potentially rocks are caked up in the hoof, the more likely they have certain injuries such as hoof bruise and stuff like that. Same with hoof length. The more overgrown a hoof is over 20%, anything, like I said, anything 20% or under is considered normal and fine, but any growth over 20% will have an impact on injury chance when showing or training. Trimming, anything, So trimming has a variable cost. The base price for having a horse trimmed is $50 per trim. If a horse's hoof length is over 30, though, a farrier charges an extra 50% of the base price for every 20 over 30. So the max that it will charge is 125 if a horse's hoof length is at 100. So that's something to be aware of as well. We'll have this all worked out in the wiki as well.
It's actually up already.
Okay, perfect. Yep. So we have this. If you guys want to go mess about on the wiki, we'll have a lot of this information there already. So that's when we get to shoeing requirements. So this is where I kind of goofed. I don't have this in quite yet, but we'll have the hoof condition value shown somewhere here. And hoof condition is partially genetic and partially environmental. So they have a base condition that is genetic. So they have a base like max condition that it can be. So let's say a horse's base condition is 75. Then the body condition of the horse and the stall cleanliness over time impacts the essentially hoof softness is kind of what we think of it as, or hoof condition. So a horse with really bad body condition who isn't getting essentially proper nutrients, obviously their hoof is not going to be in as good a condition. And then if a stall is dirty for an extended period of time, I don't remember exactly what we put that at. I think it was 2 months. At a minimum of 2 months, at anything over 2 months, it has a negative impact on the hoof condition. And then horses will require shoes based on their hoof condition and what discipline or job that they are performing in. So I'm going to pull
I
this.
can shoot you the wiki if you want.
Yeah, we can do this. So in hand, if the hoof condition is lower than 20, they will need to be shod. Barrel racing, if it's lower than 50, they will need to be shod. Cutting 30, etc. And then we have the same for different jobs. And if they are not shod and they're performing a job or training or showing in a discipline that requires them to be shod based on their condition, they have a higher chance of injury. So that's hygiene care in a nutshell. Again, quick and dirty. We already kind of went over leasing. One quality of life update is we now have branch management on each horse's page. So I can set this horse's target condition. I can say manage pasture, an auto job, auto show. If I select auto show, then I have to pick the discipline level and number of shows. Carl didn't put a horse in more than 2 shows, a rollover, because she won't put a horse in danger of losing condition. Disciplines here. This is the show string management, works exactly the same as V1. Show entry section is a little bit different because shows are a little bit different. First of all, we have the ability to filter here. Breed shows are, I'm actually going to change this. This breed shows is going away, and breeds will automatically show if you only breed specific shows will automatically be shown if you choose in hand, because as it stands right now, in hand with the new show system, in hand is the only discipline that has breed specific shows. And you will see, okay, is this one? Refresh. You will see here that there are 2 options to enter the show. There's the division and open. So instead of having breed specific shows, we now have, I'm actually going to go to an events page to explain this. We now have divisions And let's go to novice. Once out of that, I'll just bear racing. Sure, we'll go to this. So we now have divisions, which you can see here. So we have the open division, and then we have each body type. And as we can see, when I get to light, it'll show you which horses are entered into said divisions. We have this mare entered into the light division. When you enter a horse into a show, which I don't think I'm going to have any of the drop yet. I don't have my show string set up in the testing environment. You have the option to click open division or leave it blank or leave it unchecked. If it's unchecked, the horse will automatically be entered into the correct division for their body type. If you check the open division, it will enter them into the open division. A couple of reasons we did this. One, this significantly reduces the number of shows that are created every day. And actually, so instead of, I don't remember. Let me look at this. Aside, I'm going to try to find, just to give you guys an idea of that one. I'm trying to find the right. Document. Here, give me 1 second, guys. This is the one downside of kind of winging it in what we're showing you is that I don't have things pre-pulled up. But if you guys give me 1 second, I should be able to find. There we go. I found. Okay. V1 was creating 13,000, a minimum of 13,200 shows per rollover. V2, on the other hand, is going to be creating a minimum of Gideon displays a minimum of 1,559. So we went from 13,000 to 1,500 per rollover. Now, part of the reason we can do that is because now we have the divisions split in within the show. So we don't have to create as many show records because of how that works. And then another reason, and this is really, I'm pretty proud of this system. The show creation is much more dynamic and much smarter now. What it does is the rollover that creates shows will actually look at the previous, I think it does the previous night's shows. And it looks at how many horses were actually entered into each division or the open and how many for each discipline. And then it will say, okay, 200 horses were entered into shows into the light division for barrel racing shows at the novice level. So you can only enter 20 horses per show per division in the regular shows. Obviously, special shows are a little bit different. And so it'll say, so 200 divided by 20 is 10. So I need at least 10 shows this next rollover to accommodate all those horses. So it'll adjust how many shows it creates each night. And then on top of that, when a player goes and enters their horse into a division or the open division in a show, if there are only, I think it's like 2 or 3 shows remaining with less than 75% capacity, so the entries are filled up less than 75% full, then it will say, okay, we only have 2 shows left that have any capacity for more horses or have enough capacity for more horses. this person just entered into this show. I need to now create a new show so that the next person that wants to enter has another show with capacity in it. So the show system is much more dynamic, and how that helps us is it allows us to reduce the number of shows that are created automatically at the beginning. And I don't know if you guys noticed, but when I load into the events page, look at how fast it loads. Like, it's so much better than V2 or V1. So much better. I really happy with the new show system. I'm really happy with, even though there's more levels, so that we went from 4 levels to 8 levels, and it should make more shows. The way that we've tweaked the went to divisions instead of breeds, some shows and stuff like that, it's just better. It just consolidated them. It just works better. Okay, so let's go back to new horses. We're probably only going to have about a half an hour left of the stream. I know I have a busy rest of the day ahead of me, and I'm sure Lydia does as well. So we're going to try to quickly go over attack and background credits are now able to be applied on the horse's page. So you can actually, if you have credits on your account, you can actually just activate them here. And then immediately apply the, everything else is the same in this system.
Sweet listening.
And then you click customize, and I successfully customize. And if I roll up here, look at that pretty horse with pretty tech. So that's normal. We also added this history here. And so let me see if I can find a horse that has a sales history. This one's going to have a lease history. There's a bug. This horse, oh no, because the lease isn't complete yet. This horse is technically should no longer be, yes, thank you. Okay, I'm not going to be able to pronounce your name, so I'm going to call you Sal. Thank you for joining us on the stream. We really appreciate it. Yes, so that leases aren't properly ending right now. That's another bug I have to fix. Area 13, I think, is also a lease words. Here we go. Okay. Area 13 has sale history. So another thing we're doing in V2, and this is somewhat of a quality of life for us as the developers. This is both for tracking bugs and admittedly for tracking potential cheating. We had an incident during V1. Many of you will remember this. We had an individual who joined the game with less than, what is the word I'm looking for? Less than friendly motivations, and was constantly essentially manipulating, hacking it to an extent. They weren't getting any, first of all, the only information, private information that we store on any of you is your email address, and that's just necessary. Obviously, if you put your real name as your username, that's kind of on you. Most people don't do that though, so we're good. And I highly recommend do not put your full real life name as your username, please. I don't care if you use your first name or, but yeah, we highly recommend not to do that. But yes, the only private information that we keep from you or that we collect from you guys is your email. We don't collect IP addresses. We want to be. We don't even want to mess with GDPR. If you're not familiar with GDPR, it's a EU law that requires us to get your permission to store any unnecessary private data, personally identifiable data, PID, something like that. Obviously, email address is necessary to create an account. There's no getting around that. There's no way we could do it any other way. But that's why we don't store IP addresses. We don't store purchasing information is stored by our third-party finance purchasing application. We use Stripe. they are GDP compliant they manage their GDP compliance on their end. So we don't store anything about your email. But we added a lot more tracking in V2 is what I'm getting to. So one of the things we track is sales history of horse, lease history of horses. We also are now tracking credit usage. So anytime you purchase anything in the store, we'll be tracking it in our system, but we won't be tracking any of literally all we track is like, okay, Wildfire Fly's account purchased 10 background credits. And we're doing that to kind of protect you guys as well, so that if something goes wrong in a purchase for some reason, you don't get those credits, we'll see that it wasn't applied. And we're tracking when Patreon credits are applied to accounts. We're tracking when credits are used and which horse was purchased with an import credit. This is all to help us with bug fixing and also potential, lack of a better word, cheating, or manipulation of bugs to an advantage. This is not to be aggressive towards people. It's to protect the gaming experience for everyone. We have found multiple cases of potential cheating at the end of V1, and we weren't going to go into details because we weren't tracking enough information to say for sure. But essentially, it just made us realize that we needed to be more on top of all of that stuff. So, yeah, that's something to be aware of. But we have the sales history, so it'll actually track, and these need to be turned into links and will be turned into links, but it'll track who sold the horse, who bought it, what date in game, what date in real life, and the amount. And this includes rehoming. So if I were to, I can't rehome this horse because I don't think this is actually my horse. Like it's meant to be on my ranch. This is my horse. Does she have current sales? So she doesn't. But if I rehome this horse, I got to remove her from sale and click rehome and confirm. I can't rehome horse. Okay, well, that's a bug. If I were to rehome the horse, it would also put it on the sales history. Sales history is public. So this will help you guys when deciding to potentially like who you want to sell to and stuff. I think this was my horse too. Yeah. No, this isn't. So you can see this horse is not owned by me. But if there was a sales history here, I would be able to see it. So that's the last thing on that section of the horse. Then we have confirmation tab is a little bit different. So how it works now is you have this drop down here where you can choose to see all confirmation traits or traits that are specific to different abilities. So if I choose balance, these are all the confirmation traits that affect and impact balance. Alternatively, if I just want to see a specific area of the horse, I have this diagram here and I can click any of these dots to see the confirmation traits that are in that area of the horse. So if I click up here, I see head size. If I click down here, I see nostril size. Hip is going to show me a lot of values, any hip values as well as muscle mass, rib cage. Anyways, you get the idea. So that's confirmation. We did a full stream on training. I'm going to skip training. We've already kind of beat that horse to death. Health tab is a little bit different. So let me just go into the database and give this horse an injury. So you see horse 20. Let's add. There are a lot of injuries here. I think it's all my horses beat each other up in the barn. So do type 2 is active soon. And then this is horse what? Warranty, yeah. So I'm just manually adding an amulet in here. So if I refresh, sorry, Demonic Witch. Since we're talking about history, so it would be anything like inbreeding tracking. No, essentially. Nothing automatically in the game. That's something that you guys will have to track on your own. Part of the reason for that, Lydia jump in if you want here.
So we have the pedigree. The pedigrees are always going to be there, so you can see back so many generations whether or not a horse appears multiple times. But the reason why we don't use something like a COI, a COI, is because a lot of people misunderstand what that number means. And I can go on about what exactly that means and stuff, but it's not actually a useful number, and it tends to be abused. So we have not included it. And just you just have to reference the pedigree to look for the same names popping up.
Did we just have a somebody in the Discord?
A spammer? Yes, I blocked them.
I just looked over and I'm like, every channel has a new message.
Hell,
Yeah.
it's gone now. I fixed it. We're all good.
Okay, thank you. Yep. So that's the. I'll show you on the breeding tab, which this. You know what? I'll show you this on a horse that actually has parents. This is all I know because it's an import, but you will be able to see the last 4 generations of the horse. As Lydia said, inbreeding doesn't work the way that it's perceived, that most people perceive it. It's not always necessarily a bad thing. It's only bad when you get bad genes. So if you have 2 horses that carry a good gene, and you breed them together, and you become homogenous for that gene, that's a good thing. So that inbreeding, so say we'll just, for this example, say they're full siblings, or half siblings. We'll just say they're half siblings. But they both carry a specific gene from their sire. You want that gene to be persistent in your herd. Breeding those half siblings together, simply breeding them together is not necessarily bad if you're breeding them together and the result is getting more of the good gene, quote, quote. However, on the flip side, the same thing can happen with a bad gene. So let's say Herda. We'll use Herda as an example. We can go back to the health tab. If you breed 2 horses that are half siblings, and I'm using Herda just because it's a visible trait. Oh, and funnily enough, this horse has it. So if I were to breed this mare, 2 of her foals together, who both inherited Herda, maybe they have different sires, but they both inherited Herda from their dam, even though they may also both carry a positive trait that we're trying to persist in our herd. If they come out as a full carrier of Herda, homogenous Herda, obviously they'll die, so that's not good. But let's say it's a gene that doesn't necessarily end in death, then that horse is homogenous for that bad gene and is more likely or definitively going to pass that down. So that's kind of breaks down what inbreeding is really about, but how that kind of works. Did I do an okay job of breaking that down?
Yeah, I mean, it's a really complicated topic. But I mean, just the bottom line is it's because of its complexity, we don't have any like specific little way of assessing the level of inbreeding just because it can be misinterpreted. As a lot of people think anytime you say a number, it means bad, but there's inbreeding, but it's not the case.
Okay, so back to injuries. So as you can see, injuries now have a diagram, and there will be a little alert on the horse in the area of the injury. And if you click that alert, oh man, I gave them a bad injury. I put a random number in there, so I didn't know which one it was. So this is a scapula fracture. You'll notice, I need to do I'll do a different one here momentarily, but this vet symbol, the stethoscope, is a symbol for the vet. It should actually say that when I hover over it, so that's not working, so I gotta fix that. But that means because this injury is so severe, scapular fracture is a severe injury, it cannot be treated outside of a vet. Like only a vet can treat it. So if I click this, it's then going to call the vet. It'll say successfully called. It'll tell us how much we were charged. And then I haven't figured out a way to get that to go away. I need to work on that so the vet called button disappears once that's complete. But you'll also notice that the injury then grays out. So you can see that it's already been treated or the vet has been called. Let me give them a less severe injury. And that one would be And 20. Okay. And horses can have multiple injuries at the same time in B2. So you can see here, now I have multiple injuries. So this horse has colic. And so we have the little bandages here. That is for treating it itself. Another thing you'll notice is it has the date of the injury. Yeah, this injury is a little bit old because I just put a random date in. But if I click that button, it'll treat the horse. And then if I were to click a different button, it'll say Alma has already been treated. So I can't call the vet once it's been treated. Another thing you'll see down here is we have a history of injuries. So to show this horse got a scapula fracture and colic both on February year 54. So that's a great new feature for V2 as well. So we have the history as well. So just a way to make the interface a little bit more engaging. But let's go to the breeding tab. I don't think offsprings are working right now. Let me find a horse that will have a pedigree. Oh, and some of these are pasture bred, so we'll be able to show off. Haha, yes. Okay. So, got a little excited there. Ooh. Wait, what's wrong with this?
Oh, that's interesting.
Oh, he doesn't have a name. Hold on. We just found another bug. Let's go back. None of these have oh, okay. I see. And their dams don't have names. So let's find one that is. So there's clearly a bug with the birth rollover. Okay, so we'll go with this one.
What?
And apologies for if you guys can hear my dog in the background. Okay, so we go to the breeding tab. One thing to note, this Instabreed will not be there, and this breeding should not be showing because this horse is 0 months old. So I got to figure out what that's happening. But Instabreed is just a testing feature that we only, I coded it in, so only admins have access to it, and it only in the test environment. It won't even show for admins in the, oh, this one doesn't have a name. Wait, no, it went back to the wrong horse. Oh no, that one doesn't have a name either. Here we go. This one has a name. Yeah, so something to be aware of that is not accessible in the what we call production version of the game. But here we go. So you can see we've got the stallion and mare that are the parents of this horse, and they're clickable. You can also see all the offspring down here, which are also clickable. To navigate, this is pretty much the same as D1. Some differences to V2.
Do you want me to make that horse not have a father so you can show him paternity testing?
Yeah, if you want to go in and do you know how to do it?
Yep. So that's horse number 452 right there?
Yeah, so don't remove the stallion. Don't remove the stud ID. Just go and put it as, okay.
So yeah, I've done it to myself.
Okay.
For testing. Yours should be good now if you refresh.
Okay. So if this horse was pasture bred and there was more than one stud in the pasture, you'll see now the sire is unknown, but the dam isn't. And we have this option up here to search sires. So how paternity tests work in real life is that you have to know the stud that you want to test against. You actually have to test against a known entity. So what you'll want to do is search the sires. So I'm just going to search, I think it was number 4 or something. I'm going to actually search that. And then it'll give you a list of all the sires with that. I think it was 404, but I'm not sure. Let's try 402. Obviously, you're going to want to have, you're going to have to do some legwork on your end to see which stallions were in pasture, to be able to make an educated guess on which stallion. And then I'll click confirm. And it'll give me a pop-up that says, stallion is not a genetic match for mare 5 or 452 sire. So I'm going to search again. Something to note, I don't have an easy way to then remove that stallion you've already tested from the list. That's something that you're going to have to track yourself. I think it was 404 was the stallion. Yep. So then it was a genetic match, and then you'll see the pedigree updates, and 404, the stallion is back in the pedigree. So this was a really fun, really like insignificant feature, but just fun. Like we thought it would be, and realistic, obviously, if you have multiple studs out in a pasture, you don't know who the sire is, realistically. So, okay, events tab is pretty much the same. The main thing, let's go to it, of course. I think it was Mayor. So, I don't think I can go to the events tab on this work. Oh, I can't. Oh, I can't see upcoming shows, but I think she has. Shoot. This is pretty much the same. And the main thing I wanted to show you, and I kind of fixed that, is how the shows are filterable. And that they now include the payout. So it's going to include the date, time, title, discipline, level, breed, if it's an in-hand show. Excuse me. The score, placement, and what the payout was. So there's all the changes there. The album will not be live. If you guys remember from the one album was where you could, if you had the tack or background unlocked, you could save different pictures, up to 10 pictures of the horse. We do not have that system in the MVP. It just didn't seem necessary. It is one that I use semi-frequently when managing my ranch page. Why? Oh, I know why. Because that's not technically my horse. I don't actually own that horse. It's a lease horse, so I can't do anything with that tab. But if I go to the notes tab here, so again, we already showed this off earlier. This is the new interface for this. Same really as B2 or B1, sorry. I can put private notes in, which only I will be able to see. I can click on it, delete it, edit it. And then I can do the same thing with public notes. I prefer a white background to my public notes. Test suit, public. And then like I can even put a little and then save it. And then I've got a public note on the horse. And then I can also click into that. And if I'm the owner of the note, I can delete or edit it. So that is note. So that's the horse. It's pretty much covered. See, we are pretty much out of time. I think what I'm going to do, we'll go a little bit over. I'm going to show you guys the reproduction tabs. And just quickly, so there's a couple updates to this. So now, instead of being on the ranch page, we moved all of the semen storage, semen sales, stud service management, and stuff to this reproduction tab. And then all of the ranch management for those who have subscriptions is in this management tab. And then there you can manage ranch manager, locations, feed room. In the reproduction tab, a couple things I want to point out. So there was some performance issues as people accrued semen canisters. Performance on this page was not great. So what I've done in V2 is I've actually made it have pages. So there's, I think 30, it's either 15 or 30 canisters, as we call them, per page, and you can navigate through those pages. There's also, and this is such a good quality of life change, filters now on the semen page. So I can filter by breed, body type, semen gender, which I'll get into in a minute, or the name of the horse. So you'll notice on, for instance, this one, there's a little female icon, and then this one, there's the male icon. We added a feature, if you guys aren't aware, we did a blog post on it, but we added a feature when collecting a stud, you can choose to test for gender, or do gender sorting, I guess is what it's called. And what that does is it'll actually sort the semen into the potential gender that semen will produce in a foal. We say potential because I think we put it at it's a 95% chance that, for instance, if I were to use this semen that's marked as female, there's a 90, I think it's 95. I think we said 95% chance. I'll have to double check that, but there's a very, very high chance that the foal resulting from this breeding, from this insemination, will be female. But there is a minor chance, and it's quite minor, that it will be wrong, because semen sorting isn't a 100% guarantee in real life. So we're mimicking it. Yeah, that's that sales setup. So we've got the breeding. This is pretty much the same as V1. When you have semen for sale, it's going to be in the semen sales. So we have pending approval. Semen now have sales have an approval system in it. So if you want to mark, so if I go back, I guess I should see that. So we have this new approval button. So I can set, that one doesn't have any available to sell. That one doesn't either. This one has 8. Oh, oops. So I can set the price per forced 4. If I leave the recipient blank and select the approval and then hit sale, it'll set it up for sale pending approval. So if I go into the semen sale, we have these sales pending approval. It'll have the stallion and the buyer. And then I have all my semen that is on sale, and I can choose here. Oh, there was a bug, so this wasn't clearing out. But like here, I can choose to remove in multiple 4s a certain amount from sale. As you see, we've had some bugs, like we have negative here. This stuff I think I've fixed since then. I just haven't removed the invalid data. We also have stud services, and the only thing here are pending stud approvals. You put a horse up for stud. So if I go back to Pretty Boy, actually, let's go to a different horse. That is not currently up for stud. Okay, so where's stud? So I can put my price, and I can hit requires approval. Another great thing about stud services is it also has a description now, so I can put up to 500 words in here and set it for public stud. So now, if I go to the public stud page, you can see different ones have it marked as requires approval. So I think do I own this one? So I go to the horses page and I go to breed, approve my mares. No, I own this horse. If I were not the owner of this horse and I went in here, and to breed one of my mares, when I click breed, if it requires approval, it'll notify me that your request to breed this mare has been submitted to the owner of the horse, essentially, something along that lines. And then as the owner, if I go into this reproduction in the stud services tab, I can see any pending approvals. And I think this is outdated. This breeding is outdated. I need to, because it's always going to just be one. And they just have to re-request again if it didn't take. So there's a little massaging that needs to happen with this. But then you can approve or deny. I trying to remember if you approve it, if it automatically breeds them then, or if it sends. I think it does. I think it just automatically breeds them then. But I need to look into that. The last thing I want to go over here is embryo storage. Embryo storage is a sub-only feature. So you have to be a sub to be able to collect embryos from your mares. So I'm not having any pregnant mares. I'm not going to be, because I really do want to wrap up the stream here in a couple minutes. So we'll just kind of talk through how it works. But essentially, the first rollover after the pregnancy check comes back, so the same rollover that you are notified that a horse is pregnant, you can collect the embryo from the mare. If you have an embryo in storage, you know what? Let me go. Give me 1 second. So I think I can mark these as page or isn't painted. I'm just going to set up a couple embryos to be active so I can show you what that looks like on here. Hey. How did that not work? Rich. Sorry, guys, for 1 second. I'm just trying to work out what I missed. This might just be a bug that I haven't fixed, but I thought they were working. Okay, well, not sure why they're not showing up based off the edits I made. That's something I'll have to look into. But essentially, it'll just show the dam that the embryo was collected from, the sire that was implanted, the gender, if applicable. So if you use semen that had a specific gender associated with it, and then here will be a drop down where you can choose the recipient mare. And then here's a button where you can implant it to recipient mare or discard the embryo. You can only collect mares when you have an active subscription. You can implant any embryos that are collected at any time. So if I had an active subscription and I collected 3 mares, but I didn't use the embryos and my subscription expired, I would still have those embryos and I would still be able to implant them. Another thing to note is we are not going to implement embryo sales. It would be an incredible amount of work to implement embryo sales for a small percentage of the player base to be able to use, because it wouldn't make sense to allow subbed players to sell embryos to non-sub players. The point of embryos being a sub feature is to add value to subscriptions. And that would kind of dilute that value, because you could have somebody subscribe and collect a bunch of mares and they'll turn around and sell them. And it was something that we talked pretty thoroughly about. At the end of the day, we've talked about this in the past. We're not looking to make $1 million. We're not looking to make a ton of profit. It would be nice if someday we personally were able to get paid for some of the work that we've done, or essentially get reimbursed for some of the thousands of dollars that we've invested in the game of our own personal money. However, we're okay if we don't. But we don't intend on continuing the Patreon after the alpha period is over. Our intent is to end the Patreon at the full release of the game. So we need a way to make this game sustainable financially. Neither of us are in a position to be able to financially support the game for an extended period of time. Especially as we get more players, the cost of hosting the game goes up. As it stood before we closed the alpha to focus solely on V2, it was costing us about $350 a month to pay all of our bills. The Pedigree Games is the name of the company that owns Legacy that we created, and we are just barely. It's a little bit less now that we don't have as many servers up, because we don't have right now. We only have the test server up, and obviously it's a lower price server because it was only us testing it. But as more players come back into the fold, that expense is going to go back up. As it stands right now, Patreon is pretty much covering us for the most part. But by the time the alpha launches, we need to essentially be bringing in at least $200 to $300 a month to be able to support the game long term once we end the Patreon. And the reason we've decided to do that is because the Patreon really is there to support the development of the game. So once the game is fully released, it's not, I mean, we'll do bug fixes and stuff like that, but we don't really intend now. I say we don't intend, knowing us, we'll potentially add new features or change things after alpha where it's appropriate to do so. But we really don't intend on making any major changes to the game once it is out of alpha, because we just want it to be a stable, at least it is refined, like final product at that point. Obviously, we'll still do bug fixing, we'll still do maintenance. And if there are situations where it makes sense to tweak a feature, we will do that. However, we are willing to extend. Our plan is to, once we give public access, so not at the Patreon start, but at the public access point, we're hoping to run the alpha for about a year. But we're not hard set on that. We're not saying like it has to end after a year. If we still have tweaks that we want to make to the game, if we still have updates that we're doing, we'll extend the alpha. But once we feel like the game is in a good, solid place, we will probably get it like another 6 months to make sure it's running smoothly and nothing needs to change. And then we will, at that point, move it to a full release and the Patreon support. We just don't feel like it's fair to continue to ask people to support the development of the game when the development will pretty much be done. It will still be supported. There will still be some development done on the game, but the bulk of the development will be done. Do you have anything to add to that, Lydia?
No, I don't think so.
So, but yes, so that's why we are paywall gaming Embryo Collection. It again, it just comes to adding more value to the subscriptions. And it's a feature that we don't want overused either. Like it could definitely be tricky. Anyways, okay, so that's everything I'm going to go over for now. Obviously, there's more things that we could talk about. There's more changes that we've made, little features and updates, but we'll continue to put blog posts out. We're updating the wiki, so keep an eye on it. If you have any questions, you could always ask us in the Discord if you're a Discord member. If you're not, I highly recommend. There is a link to the Discord. I believe there should be a link to the Discord on the live site right now. Yes. So at the bottom. So as well as links to our Facebook and Instagram. We aren't really actively posting on Facebook and Instagram right now because we're just so focused on getting the MVP to the point that we can give Patreon members access. Again, a reminder to any Patreon members who have not linked your Discord to your Patreon, the only way we can give you access to the Patreon exclusive channel is if you link it. Thank you, Terrace. So please, we highly recommend you link your Patreon account to your Discord account for many reasons, but not the least of which is so you have access to that private Patreon channel. I'm going to give it a couple minutes or 60 seconds, I guess, to see if anybody has any other questions for us about the state of the game, about just anything to do with the Patreon launch or pretty much anything game related. So yeah, we'll give it just a minute, and then at that point, if nobody has questions, we'll wrap up the stream. And again, we appreciate everybody who was able to join us. And if you weren't able to join us, we will have the VOD up sometime next week. I can't say exactly when. It will depend on my work schedule. So, Terrace has a question. Sales of such. No, once the embryo is implanted, it more or less works as it's not 100% like a normal pregnancy, obviously, because we're pulling the dam information from the dam that you collected the embryo from. But at that point, you can do whatever you want. We're not opposed to people saying, hey, I guess we're not against, I don't know how to put this. We're not doing anything to prevent people from collecting a mare that's not theirs and implanting it for that player. The reason we're not doing anything to prevent that, and there's really, I don't think a valid reason to prevent it, is because that's a great example, Terrace. Not only that, really the value of embryo collection is in part in the fact that you can collect a mare at like every month for a year. You can get 12 foals out of that mare if it's successful. It's not 100% success rate on embryo collection, but and it does cost them in-game money. But that's kind of one of the advantages. It would be hard to do that for a player that's not a sub. It wouldn't be impossible, but it definitely would take a lot of effort on the player. So we don't foresee a lot of people doing that. But I think it's totally fine, especially the scenario that you present, Terrace, of saying, okay, you want a foal from this mare. Well, this is one of my prize mares. I'm okay with you having a foal from him, but I'm going to actually implant it in a mare that I don't really care if it, obviously you'll care if it survives, but if it's not treated as well. Thankfully, leases have a lot more. I don't know if you were on during the lease overview, Terrace, but leases have a lot more controls in place. And obviously the ability to end the lease early is ideal. Leases also work a little bit different in the charging. It used to be you were charged one lump sum at the end of the lease. Now it's every night rollover. You get charged the monthly rate. So when you set up a lease, you don't set up the full rate, you set up the rate per month. And every month that horse is still with the leasee, they get charged that rate. So if you end a lease early, if either person ends the lease early, obviously then the charges just stop. So it's just a much better system for that. But anyways, does anybody else have any questions before we wrap up and end the stream? Yeah, the quality of life changes in V2 are just so needed, and I'm so excited for them as a player as well. So, but I don't see any other questions, so we're going to wrap up the stream here. Of course, if anybody has any other questions, you guys know where to find us. And we just want to repeat that we are so thankful to everybody, how patient everybody is being. We know you're very excited. We're very excited too. But obviously we have personal life stuff that just has to take priority sometimes over the game. So, but we very much appreciate everybody's willingness to work with us and willingness to be patient and give us time to give you guys the best product possible. So with that, Lydia, did you have anything else to say?
Nope, we're good.
All right. Well, thank you guys. We're going to go ahead and end the stream here. Like I said, the VOD will be up sometime in the next, we'll say 5 days. It'll probably be quicker than that, but I just want to give myself some breathing room. And we'll see you guys all later.